Hi, this is Joe Bogart with Keller Williams. Today I got Joe Hubert with Land Title Company. This is in Denver, Colorado. And Joe, today we're going to talk a little bit about title insurance. So I'm curious, as a realtor, I work with a lot of buyers and sellers around the metro area. And they really don't understand a lot about still how title insurance works. Would you mind just talking about that for a little bit?
Well, what title insurance is really an insurance policy that protects buyers and lenders on a property. Unlike other types of insurance, it really only protects the past because that's from the previous owner owned it, and those are the things that might pop up down the road. So most insurance policies cover the future. Title insurance covers the past.
Okay, so if I'm looking at this, when you say covers the past, specifically, what is it covering for me on my house?
Well, there's a number of things that can come up after someone buys a property. Something could have been fraudulently done or a forgery taken place. There can be unpaid real estate taxes, or there could be violations with HOA covenants. These are just some of the many items that title insurance covers to protect a buyer and their lender on a property.
Okay, and when they pay for that, that covers for what length of time? How does that work?
Well, it's really forever because it's saying that this is a clean slate that this buyer and this lender has on this property. Okay. So if anything pops up down the road, that's what title insurance covers. Okay.
So I know, Joe, a lot of people who will be looking at this video today will also be looking at it, selling their home as a short sale. And I know that a lot of the questions they ask is, am I paying for that? Right. So who pays for that? How is that given clear title? What is that whole process?
Okay, so normally there's two types of policies. There's an owner's policy and there's a lender's policy. And I mentioned earlier that the owner's policy is paid for by the seller. Well, in a short sale scenario, the owner's policy is paid for by the bank. And the reason for that is they're really taking control over all the financials. So they're the ones that can pick and choose as to what's done, and they're the ones responsible for the payments and things.
Okay, so if I understand it then that if I'm selling my house as a short sale, then the bank will be willing to pay for that cost.
Absolutely.
Why is that?
Well, they're the ones, again, that are agreeing to the terms and the conditions of the financials. And so the seller isn't walking away with any money, thus they're not having to pay any money out on these elements either.
Okay, so what I hear you basically saying is 100% of the time, the bank will be picking up. That's not usually the issue when you're negotiating in a short sale then.
Correct. We've seen just about no instance whatsoever that the bank doesn't pay for the title insurance piece of it.
Perfect.
And that's pretty much across the country too.
Okay, great. So how does it work? What is the title company exactly going to do in reference towards the property sale?
Okay. When we get an order or a contract, we do a title search and we issue a commitment that basically says, here are the items that are going to be required to close this transaction. Mm-hmm. We then work with all the parties in the transaction, the sellers, the buyers, their agents, the lender, to make sure that we receive all the items necessary, and then we close the transaction. And that's a key part of the overall piece, is to making sure everything comes in to where the transaction can close on time as scheduled. Once we close, we record everything with the county for the new owners, releasing the old owners, and then we also issue a policy shortly thereafter. And then the last thing we do is if a claim does arise, we deal with that claim on behalf of the owner, the new owner, or the lender.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. And finally, why I had you here with Land Title, the question is, why Land Title? What's important about that, your title company versus other title companies that are out there right now?
Well, there's a number of choices that people have, but what's most important in this situation, and especially with short sales, is to work with a company that's been around for a while, that understands the business, that is competent in this area, because short sales are very complex. They're harder than regular resale transactions. So it's really important to have a company that understands the process, that will be around to deal with not only a claim down the road, but deal with all the items throughout the transaction to make sure it gets closed. And that's where we pride ourselves as being the best in the business.
Okay, great. Well, Joe, I appreciate your time. We thank you. Hopefully this is very informational stuff that for most of the buyers and sellers out there, that for them to know. Thanks, Joe.
Thank you so much.
You bet.